I can start then. Hello everyone. My name is Ilan. I'm the CEO of Playmakers. Personally, I worked previously in the gaming industry. I used to be a producer at a big mobile game publisher called Homa. I was one of the very first employees. The company scaled to over 300 people. We raised over $150 million. And personally, I had the chance to scale games to millions of downloads. I discovered the Web3 space because I worked in venture capital just after that gaming experience. I was part of a $3 billion size VC fund investing in startups. We led the seed round of Sorar, and that's how I dived into that ecosystem. Now I'm working at Playmakers, and what we do is we build a platform to turn the players into creators in video games. We allow the players to submit game assets like character skins, music, videos, etc., music, etc. And we let the studio implement that content to improve the whole game. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eugene. I'm CTO and co-founder of Rarible. And I first got into the space in 2017. And I was impressed by the smart contracts and how they can be composed. And I'm a software engineer myself. And about 5 years ago, we co-founded Rarible. We raised about 15 million. And since then, it's kind of a lot of fun. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, we're going to get there. It was fun. It was not fun. It's fun again.
Hey, my name is Sébastien Borget. I'm the COO and co-founder of The Sandbox, as well as the president of the Blockchain Game Alliance. The Sandbox, it's a decentralized virtual world where essentially anyone can become a creator making 3D content using voxels, sort of like digital Legos, as well as like full games and experiences using our no-code game maker, and then can publish that content on their virtual land where other users can access with their avatar that they use as their digital identity. And we've grown toward like 5.7 million accounts with a wallet, which is significant in Web3. We have 400 major global partners, brands, and we just passed 1,000 experiences live on the map made by creators, individuals, small teams. So really pushing toward the creator economy.
Very cool.
My name is Alex. I'm the co-founder of Seed.photo. We are the most exclusive NFT marketplace for photographers. We are trying to save art through blockchain and how photographers can change their creativity to currency.
And I'm Patrice Pujol. I'm the CEO and founder of Lumiere, and also a partner at Avalon Capital, which is a crypto fund based in Monaco. For Lumiere, based in Hong Kong and Singapore, not as big as the Sandbox for sure, but we're dealing more with movies, TV series, live concert, mass entertainment. We're backed by Animoca, Rolling Stone, and what we're building at the moment is a Netflix 3.0. Imagine Netflix. Instead of Netflix and chill, you actually get engaged properly in the movies, in financing them, in getting perks, and being engaged with the films. And that's the space we're building, which I think crosses over with everyone else here.
Perfect. All right, let's dive in. So the title of the panel talks about identity. We're not going to be talking about identity when it comes to like ZKs and all that, but more of like consumer and brand identity and connection of people to brands. So Web3 identity, that's the NFT profile picture I put on my Telegram, right? That's my identity, or what's a Web3 identity when it comes to a consumer base? What's the difference between my Web2 identity and Web3 other than it's a profile picture?
I think so the NFT is like
I'm being facetious, of course, but
I think a lot of the Web3 people are recognizing themselves because they have these NFT pictures. But I think this is just like the extension of like type of content that you could own. Basically, like if just a few years ago you would have an email or you would have like a pseudo, and that would have been your identity as well. For me, like it's just a new kind of support to express your identity, but that doesn't represent your whole identity.
But if I had a Picasso in my house and I changed my Facebook and LinkedIn profile to the Picasso that I own, everyone would think I'm a douche. So why is everyone taking their NFTs and putting them on their pictures or whatever? Not only a bad thing, it's a good thing. It's an identity. Like, and again, I think it is. But like, what's the opportunity here? Why is that separation happening?
For me, in Web3, your identity is just your wallet. That's essentially the account that's decentralized that you own and that you can connect across different services. on that wallet, you own NFTs, digital asset, and you can effectively use a profile picture as a representation of one of those many identities that you can have actually. So the one you refer to is more like the cultural aspect of like how do you want others to perceive you as a 2D images or as a 3D avatar like in Sandbox. But identity really essentially extend more than toward like the 3D representation, 2D or 3D representation of yourself. It extends to like which digital asset you own, which community you're part of, the whole history of transaction on your blockchain. So all the action you've built, your online reputation based on that can be deduced depending on like what action you do on certain services. It can define like if you're a good actor, a bad actor. If, for example, you've acquired token as an investor, did you sell all of them right at the token launch, or did you hold them? Then it builds reputation. And to me, identity is going to be very transparent now, thanks to the blockchain, and can be leveraged to give you access to certain services, to connect with other users based on like the digital assets you own or what you've done before.
Okay. Thoughts about that, or are we moving forward?
Yeah, probably I agree with Sebastian that like identity is much more than like a PFP, a history of transactions, how you behave. Probably like if you paid royalties when you purchase your NFT or not, and like it's actually multi-sided thing. So it's for me, identity is not only what you want to show, but how everybody else sees you. And like there are many sides.
Okay. What do you think about, again, I think community is a very big part of what we're doing. And does community become identity? And again, I think you saw that with projects that are going bigger and bigger. I'm sure that Sandbox has its army, or you looked a lot about Ape DAO and Shiba Inu's trying to build their own nation state. Even goes into meme coins, one of the biggest things pushing the industry right now. Like, at what point does a community actually try to foster something that's more than a community and tries to become part of your identity?
There's always this notion of belonging. Like, why do we buy certain brands when we have like physical clothes? Like, why do I buy Arc'teryx, Lacoste? Somehow I want to also like to express like who I am. I like the quality of the brand, the product, the story, etc. So transfer that to our like Web3 digital worlds and gaming. The same, like you choose the games you like, you choose the community you like based, I don't know, on the aesthetic codes, on different set of values as well, based on like the action that those community are doing. I think like there's a starting point, for example, with the BIC, Board Ape Yacht Club. It started just with images of like apes, but then it turned into a bigger movement, a cultural movement. Like, and you felt like being part of it had several interesting aspects. Like, I can own it to build my own brand. I can connect with other people who are like-minded, like I am, etc. And that's how, like we were talking, like extending the notion of identity to like brand identity. I think like that's how like really they become alike, and the notion of community is just much more than just being a fan of something, is participating into something. That's what Web3 allows us to do through token ownership, to become stakeholders in those community and benefit from the value that we generate by growing the circle of members.
How do we do that with like cultural products, Web 1, Web 2 products? How can we make these people our community, and then actually, as Sebastian said, through maybe Web 3, move from community to even part of your identity?
I see. Go ahead.
No, I'd like to give a very practical example. Like, we were in Hong Kong not so long ago, and Pudgy Penguins were there. I think they're throwing a party as well at Paris Blockchain Week. And that's very interesting because Pudgy Penguins, they're not really degens like Bored Apes, right? They're very loving and cute and creative, etc. And I'm not saying anything bad about Bored Apes, but you should have seen that. It was packed, first of all. Like, you had hundreds and hundreds of people. And there were multiple activities, from actual paintings that were represented physically. So there was a real physical culture which blended from metaverse to the real world, because your identity is defined past your phone and your wallet as well. Who are you in the end? The other thing that was really incredible is people were queuing to try and get one of these little puppets, right? Real world asset, right? Like, everybody likes to talk about real world asset. Would people have done that with Mickey Mouse? I don't know.
Have you heard of Disneyland?
Yeah, but
They're literally
they
standing
queue,
in line
Would they
to get
queue
to
for
Disneyland.
would they queue for one puppet of Mickey Mouse? I'm not so sure.
No.
Exactly. That's my point. So pudgy penguins into Disneyland, maybe that's the next thing, you know?
I think the whole process of identification is getting upgraded to a completely new level. That's why I believe comparing them to each other is completely wrong. We are talking about a completely different way of understanding the identification. Okay, you are just buying LV bag. Who gonna follow you back because you have an LV? As you said, you cannot even put it as your profile picture because they call you a douchebag, right? But now you buy an NFT, you put it in your profile. Why? Because it's gonna bring you back a community, which in the classic way of getting involved in the brand, there is no added value on that, right? You just in love of in a brand that, oh, I have this watch or I have this bag, but what are you getting more than that? Nothing. Here, the added value is just community and all the stuff around Web3, which gonna get added to your product.
Okay, do you find though that brands in order or companies in order to do this effectively need to start opening up the brand itself? It's, I don't know if ownership, but IP, some type of governance of something. They have to use Web3 as a sandbox to play with the brand. How do you do it effectively and not end up like Starbucks killing an Odyssey, you know?
Yeah. You know, I believe it's all about fan engagement. If you are a super brand, you know that the biggest challenge in front of you is
Innovation?
is fan engagement, because, you know, we know that Nike is always fight to get the fans of Adidas, vice versa, right? So fan engagement through Web3 is in a completely different level. That's why super brands cannot ignore the fact that through Web3, through NFT, through these new products, how they can engage their fans more and more, you know?
It's a two-way street, basically. You got pudgy penguins, and for pudgy penguins, you got a Tiffany & Co. coming our way, right?
Thoughts?
But I think there's many levels here how to think about it. Like many brands, like we're living in a world of, we say like the economy of attention. So what brands want is to capture like the user attention and to generate more buzz, usually on social media, collecting likes, views, and so on, to and create like earned media even through their action. So why do some brands? They are not just selling; they just want to stay relevant. They want to make that kind of noise, and they measure it based on that. I think we need to go past that, and like it's really have to go back core, like who are we as a brand, and is innovation part of like our culture as a brand? So some brands they are.
And are we willing
protective.
to let our users help determine what our brand is?
Exactly. So I'm going there. Like some brands have been very innovative, reinventing themselves, and it's part of their culture to reinvent themselves. And like the next phase of reinventing themselves is instead of having always the same team of consultant or internal department, you reinvent yourself together with the user, because that's where the world is going. The world is going toward user-generated content. Users don't want to stay passive in front of the content they consume. They want to be engaged. The whole new Gen Z generation, they want a feeling of meaning into the thing they buy. And that's the way that they get into product and brand. They feel engaged into them. So
They have
that's
skin in
what
the game.
they're looking for.
They have skin in the game, but they want
Exactly.
It's. I think it could be two things: or financial gain, and then that's floor price. If it's up, I'm happy. If it's down, I'm not. Or it's you actually listen to what I have to say. There's situations here that I can design a sneaker in Sandbox, and then it becomes maybe a drop that the actual company does. Like, but if it's just a marketing ploy trying to do some identity stuff, can it actually do a reverse effect where a Web 2 brand might lose its even Web 2 cred just because they did unnatural Web 3 moves?
So far, we've only seen like successful
Porsche NFT, what? Sorry.
Results in like various brands that collaborated with Sandbox, but also in general, like I'm thinking Tommy Hilfiger, when they started to open themselves to co-creation with the brand, providing some templates so at least it follows certain guidelines. They say like it generated a lot more than just content, but like very valuable input, rewards for the community, rewards for the brand, and very a big eye opener to what like this is more powerful than whatever we would create internally ever. that feeling that our community can co-create with us. We've seen that in music industry, many celebrities, like instead of having just fan purchase like a t-shirt or music or songs or track of their music, the best way to express your own fandom, we already saw that usually it's like drawing, painting your face, going to places, walking, singing together. So that's the ultimate form, and we see that a lot in sports, but actually I think it extends toward a lot of other industry, including entertainment, music, movies, to express that creativity and channel it toward like the purpose of like serving the brands and its growth. That's what we all look for.
I agree with what Sebastian says in terms of look at UGC content and what they do to promote a movie, for example. Or are they ever paid for this? No, actually, they're slapped on the wrist because they've used the footage of a film they shouldn't have used. But in reality, they've for free promoted a film. They've actually brought value. It's about time to actually reward these people. Totally agree.
So I want to ask you guys, in the more like classical, let's say, gaming space or whatever. Again, you've been in it for a long time. Do you see gaming companies being actually able to open up their brand, their tech stack, their code? Because again, I love old DOS games. If you don't know what DOS is, then you're young and hip. And you see these games that have been around, quests. I used to play 15 years ago, and there's an active community building plugins and updates, whatever, all the time. And they're not doing it to be incentivized. So from your experience, will the gaming industry be open to letting people break it a bit and then improve it, or we think improve it?
I think that historically the gaming companies were keen to protect their IP. I build a game, I own it, I sell it, and I make money this way. And then in the last few years, we started seeing the communities being extremely engaged and having a true impact on the success of the game. This is why at companies like Electronic Arts, one of the key PI that they have.
Yeah, but you see Roblox, you see whatever.
exactly.
They understand there's a lot of value.
Yeah, of course. But that's quite recent.
Yeah.
Roblox is one of the major success that took like 10 years to be built, but that became successful only in the last 5 years approximately. Fortnite shifted to UGC only a few years ago as well. So that's kind of a recent movement that we're observing in the gaming communities. For the gaming studio, what it means is that they can rely on the players to add new content inside the game, which would make the experience way more engaging. And therefore, that allowed us to keep the players engaged in the long term, increasing their retention rate and therefore their revenues. The second thing that they see is that these players, they tend to be ambassadors as well. When I create something for a game,
That's the identity part.
So in some ways, my identity is what I consume, but it is also what I build. So I build what I consume, and this is allowed by Web3 as well and by some gaming projects today. You can participate in the growth of your favorite games by creating content that can help to grow the game, grow the community, and you become a figure inside that community yourself. So it's a mutually beneficial circle that a lot of gaming studios are looking at right now. Sandbox is looking at this very closely for years now. Yeah. So it's a very big trend, and there is a lot of momentum in the gaming space regarding UGC.
So you guys do a lot of, like, I would say, partnering with projects and kind of help them launch their own, I would say, NFT component or whatever. Give us some examples. You don't have to use names or whatever, but like good implementations that have actually worked well, and also poor ones, or like how can a brand engage and build an infrastructure for NFTs that works?
Yeah, right. Thank you. Yeah, we as Rarible partnered with several Web2 and Web3 companies. So McFarlane, for example, it's a toys, right? And it actually has like this cool bridge between Web2 and Web3, because like we see a lot of users that are new to Web3 and like native Web3, and like they start to cooperate, they start to like build a community together. And the thing that we all are talking here about, like we see that new ways of engagement of this community, like McFarlane gets instant feedback over what they do. It's very cool, very nice, and like they engage in a different form and they experiment more.
But do they take that feedback? It's like asking your employees to give you suggestions, but then you don't listen to their suggestions, so they just become more disgruntled. So that part of the conversation is really interesting for me. If Adidas will come, and then you'll see by the droves people saying, we hate the 3 lines. We hate it. 99% say lose the 3 lines. They're not, what are they going to do?
Yeah, I think it's like it differs from the question, right? So it's not so easy to answer, but yeah, it's case by case scenario.
And so you're seeing that they're getting a lot of information, they're getting a deeper engagement.
Yeah, of course. So they get this information, then they decide like whether to follow it or not. So that's not easy answer and like.
Sure. So question I'd actually want everyone to respond to is, I think we've seen mainly success from Web3 native IP and brands being able to absorb a lot of what we're talking in a good way because maybe it's the ethos of the company or whatever. And again, I'm sure there are good examples, again, Snoop with Sandbox or whatever, but it seems like till today we haven't seen tier 1, Web 2 native content that has found success in truly expanding its reach and IP through Web3. Is that a bug or a feature? Do you think this is by Web3 for Web3, or can we reverse engineer Web2 IP effectively?
Yeah, can I? Yeah, I think that there is a gap, at least right now. I see the gap between like Web2 and Web3, and maybe like distrust. So I believe we as like Web3 people should build this trust and like to help maybe experiment, help build this narrative, help communities navigate through it. Because right now, like, for example, if I am a Web2 person and I'm looking at what we do here, I probably don't get it. I mean, sometimes.
What, dog with hat? What's not to understand about a dog with a hat?
Yeah. So I see at least like this is the issue here. So what do you guys think about it?
This is all very cultural at the end of the day. Like new brands are being formed. Some of them are starting in Web3, so it's part of their DNA now to be decentralized, to have a deeper sense of community and involvement. Like if you take your example with Dog with a Hat, okay, now it's cool and it's a growing community worldwide. Those brands don't need like a physical store, a lot of marketing budget, etc., to start growing. And to some extent, like we could also think like meme coins culture is going to lead to like big brands to emerge. When I'm born in '84, like used to have like LC Waikiki as a super brand, a T-shirt, etc. Guess what? They are still strong in Asia and Turkey. They are coming back to Sandbox 30 years later, and now they allow their community to create their own in Vauxhall. So there's an interesting way to traditional brand to reconnect with like newer audiences, for new brands to emerge directly from Web3. And in the middle, there might be some brands that totally disappear if they don't reinvent themselves. And that's, I think, like, what we.
But we even saw it in the NFT space and in art. And by the way, I love how everyone's saying NFTs are dead. Oh, but meme coins are in. Kind of the same thing, but different. But okay. Beeple, who was the biggest NFT artist, is an artist that didn't find as much success in, I would say, the Web2 or Web1 space. And it seems like most of the biggest NFT artists and projects were born in Web3. It wasn't actually, I don't know what, there were a few like opportunists, but you didn't see any, I would say, Alexander McQueen's actually doing a big move.
I mean, fashion, if you look at Tiffany & Co., they made a killing with it, right? I mean, they sold for millions, right? And they're still continuing. It's not dead. It depends which teams are behind them. You know, like I wouldn't know them personally, but clearly they did an amazing job, right? And maybe not every NFT is ready to roll forever, right? So it's, do they manage to gather a community around them, like I think a lot of you said, and is this community loyal and reliable? And then vice versa. I mean, is the brand ready to decentralize? Because it's like central banks, right? What is a central bank in a decentralized world? Decentralized finance is the same thing. What is a brand that has a very specific IP that's owned by a few people once it decides to spread and give its power and distribute its power across?
Are they the same users? I mean, people that are following like Web3 projects, are they the same ones as buying Web2 products at Tiffany's or Nike, for example?
I think that again, I'm just contemplating, I think it's more of like, Audi will do the Audi A1 to try and get you to like Audi, and then hopefully you'll be buying Audi for life or whatever. I think it's a way for a foot in the door for people that maybe right now aren't in shop to buy a diamond ring at Tiffany's, but they can have that kind of, I guess, brand affiliation or whatever. But I also think that you're going to see a bit of a difference right now because industries change. So even NFTs were buy my NFT. Now we're giving him away. So it's even an airdropping of thing. And that's also interesting. Do you see...
Free mints have been a new thing.
Exactly.
Right?
It's not about making money on the drop. It's getting people to access it and then building that.
Yeah, you know that if you think NFT is dead already, maybe you are talking about
that's the narrative. The narrative is that NFTs are dead.
Maybe they are talking about the worthless NFTs with zero use case, with zero art value behind. Let me promote myself.
Yeah.
You can check our collection yesterday in Bybit. 500 pieces of art sold in 26 minutes. So it's not dead. If there is a real art, there is a customer for it. And to answer your previous question, I believe there is a big fear over there for the brands. There are so many brands right now that they are in Web3, but they don't dare to promote that officially in their even Instagram page. How many brands in Formula One you want me to show you that they already launched their NFTs collection in different exchanges?
Yeah, but
they don't even announce it, you know?
I can tell you about, let's say we talked about athletes. I'm never going to go into names. And again, we're just one agency. We're not even big on NFTs that much. I've had 3 different NBA athletes contact us and say, hey, so about a year ago, my agent gave me something to sign, said we're doing an NFT thing. He said it's going to be 1 day of shooting. It's like a digital basketball card. I did that shooting, and since then, I have a community, I have a Telegram, I need to do meet and greets before games. What is this? How do I kill this NFT? I don't want it. So there's also that part, which is conviction, because as I said, once you're in this, it's a conviction game. And a lot of brands don't understand that, because a movie promotion ends when that interview is over. A good digital asset should live for life. So
that's the interesting part. I think people are just dropping like images or content, like rich media, etc. Actually, what they create is like a whole platform that's going to be built upon. And the most successful for me so far deployment of building brands with NFT has been the Bored Ape Yacht Club, the Made by Apes. Like what began just as like 2D images. The fact that people could own it and could build their own brand on it has led like
derivatives. Your ape is your sub-brand derivative.
Drinks, like I think there's like a burger joint chain, and all of that we've seen a great extent. I don't know if many of you have the chance to go to Ape Fest. There's been like already 2, one in New York, one in Hong Kong, and it brought like something like 5,000 to 10,000 people together at a music festival and enjoying, like discovering each other brand and so on. It's quite exciting to think like just owning the image has allowed people to start doing their own businesses on top of that, give a seal of like recognition and audience, and contributed both toward like the original collection and its success and its community, and to attract more mainstream audience that like might just enjoy like buying sneakers, food, etc.
All right, perfect. I want to take the last part of this to talk, I wouldn't say over technical, but we also talked about that a bit. So blockchain is an open ledger. Everyone can look at your transactions. Do we want brands to judge us by what we bought, who we bought? Like, do we want that to be out there? We talked about, like, is there going to be a credit score when it comes to, like, your NFT or your involvement in communities? Like, do we actually want that? Do we want our brands to interact with our or be opposed to our bank account? Can you be penalized by your community because you actually think that another community is also cute and you bought into that? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I think that, like, in my opinion, like, privacy should go like somewhere near the identity. And I think that Web3 like under-delivered on it right now, right? Because like everything is public, and actually we should really think what we show to the world and like how we do it, and like we can't actually makes anything private, and I think it's a big issue right now. So, and like we probably don't have technologies for it, and for me at least it's like very important topic.
I can tell that even on the investment side, VCs today say that good founders are going to say, oh, give me all the wallets of the project, of your VC. And they're like, what? Yeah, I want to see the wallets. I want to see the wallets. I want to see when you get the tokens. I want to see what you do with them. Do they go to an exchange after a second? And it's very interesting. They're like, oh, we don't care about your returns, whatever. Give me addresses. And it's very, very interesting to see how things are flipping and how our consumer behavior is now being able to be judged by someone. Do I let you in?
I mean, you can go one level above and go into WorldCoin level, right? Where you give your biometrics as well. And hopefully everything's going to be okay, but maybe not. And actually, I find this quite depressing in a way because I'm like, is it because people don't know the potential risk? Is it because they trust the technology? Is it because of greed? Is it because of desperation? Because there's a lot of people out there who can barely eat. And I wonder what sort of proportion of the mix between these two, or these four, sorry, is playing. Because it is a bit worrying, and technology is just a tool. It's a double-edged sword. It can do amazing things. The way I was sold blockchain in a sentence, it was a bit, an editor of Bitcoin magazine, Nicolas Mendoza, who sold it to me. He said, you know, Patrice, this technology can destroy the world, or it can make it the most beautiful place. I guess we're going to land probably in between, but that's the thing, right?
Every time I'm on YouTube, I say, God gave us the internet and what we did is cat movies, but yeah.
It started like that on YouTube, yeah. The technology is like you say, like the technology is a tool. Like it brings a lot of opportunities. Now, like we can do targeted user acquisition on chain based on like the different assets that you own, and we can offer benefits to those asset holders to attract them to our different services. One of the simplest way to think about that has been like all those whitelisting for the next mint. But there can be much more. I can be, because you've been buying this Snoop Dogg avatar, then you have access to the VIP backstage event at this concert, you have access to claim physical goods, and so on. Many brands have leveraged that, like Lacoste, when they introduced a forward-free brand, have really been able to bridge NFT ownership to give various benefits, including physical goods and so on. And it's a powerful tool for engagement, for targeting users, for owning your own user base, because that's something that in Web2 all the brands, they might not realize, but they lost total access to like who are our customers, who are our fans. How do I reach out to them without
I
having
remember
to
that moment
pay?
10 years ago where Mark Zuckerberg told people, oh, by the way, I'm not going to give you full access to your likes anymore.
Exactly.
And they're like,
So
what? They're like, yes, it's my
our data.
likes, it's
Yeah.
my platform.
Yeah.
And
And so you realize then they became prisoner of the system, like, oh, I contributed to grow my page because I wanted to have great numbers. And then now I have to pay to reach a fraction of that audience, which I don't know who it is, and I don't have any data on, like, to retarget them. So there is an opportunity to disrupt that model that we got locked into and use blockchain. And on the other side, indeed, like full transparency, some people might be concerned, and it's their right, obviously. So there are technical solutions being built on chain to ensure, like with the ZK, most of these sidechain and all the ZK solutions, so you can expose only a part of your identity. Like if a service wants to check, are you adult or are you of like the age of majority, so you can enter my service. Yes, I can accept to deliver to that service only that piece of information, but without saying where I live, which country, my date of birth, for example.
And if it's done correctly, once you're done, you can kill the ZK connection, and that data is lost. They don't store it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's again a new opportunity to build solutions that are going to attract like more traditional B2B, government, and mainstream platforms.
All right, perfect. We're getting to the last part. I have more of like a shout out kind of thing. So I'd love if you could, I want people to leave with things that they can do here or learn about. So I want to first start with not like specific projects, but more like tech narratives, things, processes. What excites you right now? What you're looking at the next year and you're saying, you know what, really interesting. It could be, on the brand level, on the tech level, but less about a specific project or company. That's a follow-up question. But what on the process or tech level are you excited it's happening this year? I will start with mine. I am very interested to see the whole push of what happened in the past year with all the different airdrops and things like that, and how is that going to correlate into real life? Are companies, are people going to start airdropping equities into us? Are people going to start giving us free products for everything? But like, just what is the fact that you understand that if you give people something and give them a reason to get involved early on, and instead of selling it to them, you gift it to them for work? what is that going to be? But I think that could be very, very interesting when implemented to the Web 2 world. That's my opinion.
That would be a user acquisition strategy for most of the
anything.
brands, I think.
Yeah.
They give you a first product, then they try to upsell you for different products.
Think if I'm going to go now as a new company going to the stock market, and I'm going to go to Morgan Stanley and Merrill Lynch or whatever and be like, hey guys, whoever in your portfolio holds these 4 companies that I see as my competitors, I want to send them 10 stocks. That's crazy. That can change the game. So that's my opinion. But
Yeah, definitely.
what about yourself?
Personally, I'm quite excited about interoperability in the gaming space. I think that's
Interoperability is the connection and discussion between blockchains, and then how we all can work together, just so we're all
exactly.
Yeah.
You can even extend that. Like you even said that you could have like some things from one game going into another game, or some, let's say, Nike shoes going into Sandbox, for example. Dogami did that with Gap, for example, the clothing brand. You could be able to play with a squirt from one game into another one, and that's what we'll keep the same effects. I think that could have like a very large impact on the game itself, creating completely new gaming experiences. You could keep all the objects that you unlocked in one game and have it into another one, and still be able to enjoy them. There are still like some key challenges. Technical, so you need to make sure that something works inside a game to work into another one as well. You need to respect the same technical guidelines. And game design, you need the game assets, that's words, to still be optimized, do the same amount of damage into the other game as well. There are some companies working on that. I'm thinking about like Improbable or OGA, for example, in the Web3 space. And it's a difficult challenge to crack, but that might lead to very innovative gaming experiences in the next few years, in my opinion.
Perfect. What about you, Eugene?
Yeah, I am interested personally in privacy, so probably you got it before. So like privacy and identity, and also I'm interested to see probably what you told about like incentive and like how people can disclose like only small amount of information and not the whole like thing. So this is very interesting, and I think that technology started to appear about it, and we will see a lot of it in future. And also,
people need to understand that privacy and encryption in crypto is not Tornado Cash and Monero. It's not about how do I, launder funds. It's more about how can people understand that I got into this marketplace and I left this marketplace, but what I did in the middle of that is none of your business. And that means that someone can do a business of that. Again, let's say I want to go on Rarible and make my business on flipping NFTs. If anyone can see that I bought that NFT 20 minutes ago and also knows from who I bought it, how can I run a business that way? So things like that.
Yeah. Thank you for the clarification. Also, another part that I'm very interested in, but it's maybe not too much about identity, but like how the tokenomics should work. Like what is the balance between like incentives and supply and demand, and like building probably a model about it, because like at least I am not aware of like a comprehensive model.
I was gonna say if you discover that, tell all of us, because we're all trying to understand that as well.
I mean, it's just I'm interested in very much, and I will be looking more into it.
Sebastian?
4 areas I'm interested. Well, still the creator economy, because we're still so early in it. I don't think like we've seen the full potential of the development and seeing millions of new creators entering the space and growing and exchanging, monetizing their content. Digital identity, I still believe, like again, like we see so much more than 2D images or 3D avatar. The whole reputation will be on chain. That extend a bit to the notion of privacy as well, and community building and so on. Social fi, the idea of like every single one of us could have their own digital currency, their own token, and it can be traded for various utility, such as like monetizing our time, our value, our influence, our network, and so on. And decentralized infrastructure as well, like how we can run like various services of internet, of computing, of storage, and so on, outside of like the existing.
So much infrastructure, so little users, but yeah.
Forms. Yes.
There are 2 parts for me that they are very exciting. First of all, how musicians, photographers especially, gonna survive with the help of blockchain and Web3, especially through the infringement that we are facing right now. And the second one is how the new metaverses, they are getting more deep through the deep in and especially IoT, which is going to be a completely different level of the metaverse that we are really expecting.
Well, I agree with everything really that's been said here. There's many narratives on this bull run. You know, usually it was one at a time. Now it's everything in one go. There's one thing I think that we need to do well, otherwise we're fried. And it's how do we get the next 1 billion people on board? Because if we don't do it, all this is over. The party is over. Se acaba la fiesta. It's finished, right? So how do we do that? I'm not trying to shield the thing, but calling it as a concept. Telegram Open Network, 800 million active users, right? They are building on Telegram. They are the place to bring mass adoption. I think partners like this, we're exploring that as well. I know a lot of you are as well. They're the
If you haven't tried to buy, like if you haven't interacted with crypto on Ton or buying and selling, just for yourself, if you're in crypto, I would really recommend you do that. Yeah. It is, some would say the funnest and best UX, some would say not, but it is very interesting and I agree with you. There's doing a lot of cool things there.
So if I was gonna say 3 letters, TON, okay, disclaimer, yes, I do own some, but not a huge amount, and I'm not paid by them, by the way.
Perfect. So you just started our lightning end round. We're ending right now. Please let people leave with a project or something that they should look at, and if you need to give a full disclosure, please do that.
You got it.
Yeah. So he gave Ton, and looking at that, you give something.
No financial advice, but yeah, if for the metaverses that I'm looking into now, I can say Ultraverse is one of the one that's moving so fast.
Perfect. Sebastian, you love all your children.
Exactly.
All good. Anything you're bullish about, you like, people should take a look at?
Probably not particular project.
All right. Okay. Cool. What about yourself?
Personally, I'm quite, so in the gaming field, I'm quite excited about a game called Hungry Dynamite, which is built by one of the ex-co-founder of Colibri. Colibri was a company acquired for more than $100 million by Ubisoft. The project is very young, very ambitious. They're trying to build a casual Factorio with very community-driven and with incentives as well. I think it's well built. So for anyone interested in gaming, new games to discover, feel free to give it a look.
Perfect. I recommend you check all these founders' websites because I did, and they're all doing some really, really cool stuff. Thank you very much for joining us and staying for the whole thing. And we're around, and the other speakers will stay a few minutes and be able to take some personal questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.